Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome for the final time to PolarGT action here live on GlacierTV. Wil Vincent all alone here today because no one wants to say hello, but hey, I'll be with you 2 rounds, of course, starting first with the 30-minute race. We'll race for 30 minutes. It will be a standing start, and then what we'll do is we'll invert the top 20 drivers for heat number 2. We'll do a rolling start, and we'll do it all over again. So we've got ourselves a little under 2 minutes left of practice. We'll go to the grid and we'll run through the grid as soon as this practice session has finished. We are racing here today at the 3.36 mile 11 corner Watkins Glen International, running today on the boot layout without the chicane. This means that these drivers will have a perfect opportunity to try to use that draft set up to make a pass down into the carousel. For those of you who saw the 120 minutes of thunder, the ISR event with our friends over ETV Live yesterday, will know that a lot of passing can be done there. Also good passing opportunities perhaps down into turn number 1, the first corner on the racetrack. You've got to be very good on the brakes to make that pass, and of course you want to get that pass complete before you got the climbing S's turn 2, 3 and 4. And if you don't complete the pass, make sure you're close to your competitor to make sure you get that run down the back, coming down into the carousel. We've also seen a couple of passing opportunities down into turn number 8 recently as well. Turn 8, that right-hander, before you make that little run up the hill before you join what the original layout was, the cup layout it's called here today, which is turn number 9. A little over 30 seconds left of this practice session. Currently got guys like Dave Geeling, Glen McGee circulating on the racetrack. Marcus Girac as well. Pedro Cordobara and Sven Glatzel, they've been having a little bit of battle in this practice session as well. And having a look at Pano Laniotto, he's actually trying to see whether his car, it looks like he's trying to see whether he can set cars up coming out of those climbing S's, but checkered flag is about to come out to signify the end of practice. As I say, we'll run through the grid in just 1 moment. So indeed, checkered flag is now out. So we're going to head it down to the grid for this race. And don't forget, it will be a standing start for this, the first of today's heat, the final round of the PolarGT $1,000 Cup. Row number 1 will be Marcus Girac and Glen McGee. Row 2, Timo Evening and Norby Kiss. Top 4 drivers separated by just over 1/10 of a second in qualifying. 5th place, Dave Geeling. 6th, Henry Voyek. 7th, Petru Cottabara. 8th is Joni Hagner. 9th is Tobias Zerny. And running at your top 10 is Anthony Rosselli. A total of 17 cars making the trip to Watkins Glen for the first of today's heats. And the cars are currently just lined up on the starting grid, getting ready to go racing, as I say, for 30 minutes. Turn 1, it has been an issue sometimes in the past. Be interesting to see whether we'll have any first lap casualties, because there are less than 20 drivers in the field. They are all going to be inverted for the second of today's heats. And you see right now, just waiting for the last of those cars to line up on the grid before we go racing here at the Glen, waiting for those lights to go on. Lights out, and away we go. It looks like everyone getting themselves a good start as they all storm down into turn number 1 for the first time. It is Girac from the point. Timo Evening from the 3rd position. He's going to move himself up into the 2nd spot. Glen McGee will fall down into 3rd early on. Norby Kiss comes in 4th, and Dave Geeling rounds out your top 5 as they come up the climbing S's, turn 2, 3 and 4 for the first time in this race. We've got a crash. It's a big crash there, and that looks as though it is Norby Kiss from the 4th position as he's coming out of turn number 4. He just clipped the Armco barrier, and that spun him around, and he slammed into the Armco hard, flipped himself upside down. He is out of the race. It looks like everyone was able to get through that okay. They were running almost 3 abreast as they came down into the carousel for the first time. And whilst that was all going on, Paul Ilbrink was able to make the move on Sven Glatzel, which moved him up into the top 10 in the race. We're getting word from race control as well that Glen McGee in that number 8 car jumped the start, so he will have to come down to make himself a stop-and-go penalty. And that is really going to hurt his chances. That'll put him right to the rear of this field. Right now, Girac from Evenham, from McGee, from Geelink, from Voyak now. They are your top 5. Kotobras in the 6th position. Then Hagner, Rosselli, Zerny, and Ilbrink round out your top 10. A little bit of smoke there from Hagner as they came out of turn number 9. It looks like apart from the issue we had with Norby Kiss, everyone was able to get through the first lap okay. And as they come past the start-finish line, it'll be Marcus Girac who leads lap number 1. And let's see what the gap between himself and Evenham is. It is 4 tenths of a second, with Glen McGee a further 6 tenths of a second back. Now, Glen McGee, he will probably wait until the very last moment before he makes that trip to pit road to get himself that stop-and-go penalty. What he's trying to do right now is try and get himself as much of the gap as possible to the cars in the mid-pack and towards the rear of the field so that he can come out and not have to worry about being in the action as we've got a battle for the race lead. This is Timo Even, and he's going to go to the point in the Inex racing car around the outside. Will he get it slowed down? I'm not sure he will. This is going to allow Marcus Girac to get that position back. Timo Even tried it on the outside. He just outbraked himself a tiny bit there, and that cost him dramatically, and he will have to try and do that over again. Looks as though everyone's single file for the time being, except right now, Paul Ilvin trying to work on the outside of Tobias Zerny as they come out of toe corner. They're now going to work themselves down the short straightaway. Ilvin will get the better run on the left-hand side there in that 41 car. Tobias Zerny concedes a position already under attack by the L'Endurance car of Sven Glatzel as they work themselves back down into turn number 9. And Glatzel, he actually gets a very good run there in that number 10 machine, and Tobias Zerny in the 101 car is having to really hound his machine to make sure that Glatzel doesn't get past him. We're going to keep an eye out. As you see there, Glen McGee is bringing his car to pit road, so 40 miles an hour for Glen McGee. It is going to be a very, very long trip for him. That will drop him to the rear of the field. Once again, just the one retiree, and that is Norby Kiss, who's been able to get his car back to pit road, and he's trying to see if he can get any repairs to that number 15 machine. It looks as though Timo Even isn't as close to Marcus Girac as they work themselves onto the back straightaway, but it does look as though at the same time, Even is running a lot less wing than Marcus Girac. You see Girac again going defensive. Even isn't able to complete the pass there, but if he can stay close enough, he might try and slow it down to the left as they come out of the carousel down into turn number 6. He's not quite going to be close enough, but Timo Even really is using a lot less spoiler in that car compared to the number 44 Team Alligan machine of Marcus Girac. As we put 2.5 laps on the book last time by, Even a 144.272, Marcus Girac a 144.131. Those two cars have already opened a 1.7 gap over Dave Geelink in the other Inex racing car, who currently runs in 3rd. And then Henry Voyak in 4th is a further 1.57 back. It does look as though that Dave Geelink actually has been able to gain a tiny bit on this lap. In fact, the gap's come down to about 1.4 seconds. So he's still not out of the question just yet, is Dave Geelink. He gets a little bit of a wiggle coming out of turn number 9, however, and that might hurt him. He's fallen back just a tiny bit, and he loses a little bit more actually there down in turn 10 as well, losing another 10th of a second. It does look as though the dirty air isn't working for the Inex racing car. But this could be interesting now. If Timo Even can line up turn 1 properly and not have to check up in the climbing S's, he's got a good chance of trying to take that lead away from Marcus Girac this time. Let's try and go on board with him as they work up the climbing S's. This will be the battle for the race lead. The 01 car, the Inex racing machine of Timo Even, and the number 44 Team Alien car. You'll see that Girac car will probably move to the right-hand side immediately. Indeed, he does. This means Even is going to have to go around the long way. In fact, Even would have been able to go down the inside. It would have been risky. He would have had the chance, but Even is clear now. So if he can just hit his braking marks, you see, and look at this, Girac trying to go back around the outside there. He knew Even wouldn't be as strong under the brakes. Even will take that first position away. However, in the end, Even is to the point. We've also got an incident between Sven Glatzel and Stefano Leniotto. And it looks as though that Glatzel's car is now down on pit road, and Tapano Laniotto is out of the race. Just going to try and bring you an update to see what happened with Tapano Laniotto. In fact, it looked as though it happened in the second to last corner at the conclusion of lap number 3. Sven Glatzel just had a single car incident. He got loose. He ran over that curb just a little bit too much coming out of the second to last corner. And he put 2 wheels on the grass. That spun him around straight into the tyre barriers. And then Laniotto had nowhere to go, just slammed into him. And it's game over for both of those drivers. However, for Timo Evening, he will come out the final corner and he will be classified at the conclusion of lap number 4 as your race leader. And now it will be interesting to see whether Marcus Girac can do anything to try and get that lead back. The gap, just 0.3 of a second as they come back down into turn number 1. Girac, even going a little bit wide there, and he had to struggle to put the power down. This could give Girac a little bit of a chance. This is the same point, however, where Evening will likely stretch his legs on this back straightaway. We're going to have to see whether this will be a key indicator to see whether Girac can try and get that lead back again. He closes right up to the rear of Timo Evening. He will probably have to go to the right as well. Battle for the race lead once again. Girac now on the left hand side, Evening on the right. Last late breakers. Girac can't get the job done. Evening sliding on the inside line, and Evening will keep that position even. But Girac is looking very strong as he tries to slide it down the inside. Coming down into turn number 6, wasn't quite close enough. Has to get out of it. And while these two battle, Dave Geeling is able to just about stay in the picture for the time being. So to run through then your top 5, it is Timo Evening, about a 0.4 of a second gap. It's actually Marcus Girac going to try and look down to the inside. No, not quite into turn number 8, all over the rear of the 01 Inex Racing car, however. No gap between these two drivers at all as they come back down into turn number 9. Dave Geeling running in the 3rd position, Henry Voyek in 3rd, Joni Hag 4th even, and then Joni Hagner rounds out your top 5. Anthony Rosselli has just been able to get himself past Petri Cotavara, so Rosselli moves himself into the 6th position and Cotavara moves down into the 7th position. To give you an update, that was actually down into turn 6, the same pass that Girac was trying to make. Rosselli was able to just slide it down the inside as Cotavara got a little bit squirrely in the centre of turn 6. It's a very important corner actually. We'll keep an eye on that the next time your 2 race leaders come past. I'll try and explain the reason why, but it's a big tarmac change. You've got to be very careful with where you brake. Often, braking earlier is do it better than doing a little bit later. But that drag race down the back straightaway, once again, I think this is going to be what we're going to see all day long. This time, Girac doesn't go to make the pass, and I think right now what he's trying to do is help Evening push away from Dave Geeling to make it a 2-horse race. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. You see, the tarmac change is right there. If you brake after the tarmac change, it's a lot more slippery, and you see often drivers getting a little bit sideways in the centre of the corner. But those two continue their battle for the race lead as Evening goes a little bit high. This could allow Girac to make a chance as they come down this short straightaway. You see, Evening is very struggling in the slow corners. Girac's car looks a lot more planted. Again, he doesn't go to try and make the pass. And these two continue their battle. Behind them, you have got an interesting battle as Alexia Loma is trying to make the pass over Tobias Zerning. This is a battle for 9th position on the racetrack. Alexia Loma currently running it in the 10th in the Trellet.net Super Alexi machine. Tobias Zerny ahead of him. And then ahead of him you have Paul Ilbrink. Then ahead is Petru Cotavara. Those 4 cars separated right now by just about 2 seconds on the racetrack. And ahead of them, you really got a good battle hitting up now between Anthony Rosselli and Joni Hagner. Hagner in the number 2 Glacier Racing car, Anthony Rosselli in the number 70 Radical Steel Series machine as they bring it down into turn number 1. And I think there's a little bit of a difference between what we see up and down this field, whereas the cars in the mid-pack are generally running very similar spoiler setting, medium downforce, so they can't really gain much from the straightaway. We'll see whether Rosselli can do anything. He really abuses the curve there through turn number 3, and in fact Hagner almost hit the armco barrier in the same way that Norby Kiss did through turn 4. This could give Anthony Rosselli a little bit of a chance Will he flick it down to the inside? Yes, he will. And he will take away 5th position from... Yeah, he will. 5th position there from Joni Hagner. Moves himself now up into the top 5. Give you an update, still in the race lead. It's exactly where it is. Timo Evelyn and Marcus Girac. We're getting word as well that there's a little bit of contact between a couple of drivers in the carousel, and we believe that was Evelyn and Girac. Nothing really that caused any damage to these 2 race cars. They continue on, but so far, your biggest movers in this race, you have Anthony Rosselli up 5 positions and Alexia Loma up 5 positions. They are your 2 biggest movers going up. Paul Lilbrink also up 4 positions since the start of this race. 2 Radical cars really are doing a good job here. Glen McGee, after that stop and go penalty, down 12 positions. Then Glatzel, of course, down 5 positions. He had that incident in the second to last corner. Norbekis, well, he's finished last, and he is scored 13 positions down from where he started this race. Don't forget, you can keep in contact with us on Twitter all race long. You can use the hashtag PolarGT. Alternatively, follow me at Wil Vincent. That's all one word, and please only use the 1L. Otherwise, you get some random guy on Drupal, who I have no idea who he is. He's not me. But meanwhile, here comes Girac once again to the outside, and we have working on lap number 8 now. Will Girac be able to complete that pass? Last late breakers again. We know Girac can do it on the outside line this time. He will take that position back, unless even you see Girac getting sideways, a little bit of contact there, and nothing really that would force an incident between those 2 drivers. But Girac just got slippery out on the outside line there. Even was able to slot his car on the inside, and therefore he retains the race lead. And I tell you what, Dave Geelink is right in this as well. It is now a 3-horse battle for the race lead here at the Glen, as we have had so far about half the race done. We're going to be halfway next time we come past the start-finish line. But it's now a 3-horse race, even from Girac from Geelink. Henry Voigt is now 5.4 seconds back, but I tell you what, Anthony Rosselli is catching Henry Voigt, and the gap between those 2 drivers right now, well, that's down to about 7/10 of a second on the racetrack. Anthony Rosselli really is on a charge in that number 70 machine as they work themselves down into the second to last corner once again. The gap is about 8/10 right now, and Rosselli just doesn't seem to like that final 2 corners. That's why he loses time, but anywhere else he is a lot faster than Henry Voigt. And of course we know from when he made that pass over Hagner, his car is set up to work pretty well in the draft as well. Up the hill for the race leaders once again. And will Girac be anywhere near close enough to make that run? Gap down to 2/10 of a second. Gap down to 1/10 of a second. Gap down to less than a car length. Will Girac move to the left? Yes, he will. This is the battle for the lead once again. And they are oh so close. Girac taking a much tighter line into the corner. Couldn't get it done. And I tell you what, if Girac can just actually hold on and stay side by side through the carousel, he will have the chance as Geelink comes from behind. Almost runs into the rear of Marcus Girac. They're going to be 2 wide almost as they come out of turn number 6. And Girac really doesn't want Geelink to get past, because you have the 2 9X cars out front. There's a good chance they can work together to make sure that Girac cannot get back towards the top step of the podium. So we're going to keep it with your top 3 cars for the next half a lap or so as they work themselves into turn number 9 once again. And even it's 3/10 between himself and Marcus Girac. Behind is Dave Geelink, now just also 3/10 of a second further back. We'll give you an update as well on Anthony Rosselli in that number 70 machine. He has caught up to the rear now of Henry Voigt. He's taken out 4/10 of a second in that previous lap, and he might now have a good chance to try and make a slingshot pass down into the carousel if he can just get within 3/10 of a second coming out of turn number 1. The gap right now, it's 4/10 of a second. But in fact, now it just comes down to 3/10. As they come down into 1, he needs to maintain a good speed through here. Voigt taking a slightly more conservative line, Rosselli slightly more aggressive. That gap right now is exactly 3/10 of a second. but it's going to be important to make sure that Rosselli gets a run coming out of the corner. Voyak a little bit sideways there. That will help him dramatically. And nothing changing in your top three drivers. In fact, Gielinck's going to try and make the late minute pass there. A little bit of blocking by Jerk. They'll get away with it. Gielinck gives him a little bit of a love tap. Meanwhile, Rosselli does go past there. And he moves himself now up into the 4th position. And let's not forget that he started this race in the 10th position. So now Rosselli up 6 positions since the start of this race. And last time by, Anthony Rosselli did a 1 minute 45.134. Your race leaders, they are only 0.3 of a second slower than Anthony Rosselli. So right now, perhaps Rosselli won't be able to gain any more positions, but up into 4th position right now, a good run by him. And also, Petri Kotavara is coming to play as well. He's running in the 6th position right now. And last time by, he was the 2nd fastest car on the racetrack as Girac goes sideways in turn 9, and Gielinck wasn't able to capitalise on that. As I was saying, Kotavara was the 2nd fastest car on the racetrack that last time by, so he has got a good chance of getting past Henry Voyak, but also he might have a chance of getting past Anthony Rosselli as well. Kotavara in that number 17 Ferrari Azura racing car, looking very strong. We'll see what his lap time is as they come past the track once again with 12 minutes on the play clock. And is Voyak going to try and slow it down the inside of Rosselli? No, he won't. Just putting that car to the right-hand side, perhaps trying to distract Rosselli. But we know from all the stuff that we've seen in PolarGT, in Protorise, and of course last year in the Grand Am Premier Series, it's not easy to really frighten Anthony Rosselli on this racetrack. But this will be a good opportunity right now with these 3 cars. As at the same time, Dave Gielinck on the outside line. Can the Inex car make it stick? No, he can't. So, Girac stays where he is for 2nd place for the time being. Meanwhile, it looks as though that Voyak's going to be able to get past Anthony Rosselli. Rosselli's going to have to make it work on the outside line. Will he get the job done? The 2 touch! The 2 into the wall there. Voyak and Rosselli coming out of turn number 5, the carousel. They just had contact coming out of the corner, and it looked as though that Voyak's car just touched Rosselli, and that's beat them both left into the Armco barriers. Absolutely no forgiveness there, and Rosselli is able to carry on going. He has fallen down into the 9th position, and Henry Voyak is now down into the 10th spot, and what that does is it moves Petri Kotavara up into the 4th position now on the racetrack, and that is going to be horrible news for both Rosselli and Henry Voyak, who are having incredibly good runs at the start of the day. Team Raven's been able to open that gap to about 0.6 of a second over Marcus Girac. Girac has been able to pull away a little bit from Dave Gielinck, however. The gap is now up to 0.8 of a second as they swarm it down into turn number 1 once again. A little over 10 minutes left remaining on the play clock. And Rosselli's got some damage. He's bringing his car onto pit road as Henry Voyak goes past him. And that is going to be hugely disappointing for Anthony Rosselli. So keep an eye out, see how much work has to be done to that radical number 70 machine. But he's on pit road, and he will join the list of people who will finish well down the field. Norby Kiss has currently scored 8 laps down. We saw how he was out before he could even complete 1 lap. Sven Glatzel, he had his incident in the 2nd to last corner on lap number 2. And Stefano Leniotto, of course, the unfortunate bystander of that as well. Glen McGee will be happy. He's been able to just get himself past Jarmiri Rapalina in the number 9 car that previous lap. So he's now up into the 13th position. That will move up a further position with Anthony Rosselli on pit road. So now McGee is scored in the 12th position on the racetrack and hunting down Wolfgang Waldenhorst. The gap right now is 5 seconds between those drivers. In the meanwhile, we have got things calmed down a little bit at Watkins Glen, just for the time being. Best battle on the racetrack, well, that's between Petri Kotavara and Joni Hagner. Kotavara in the number 17 machine, the Ferrari Azura racing car. Joni Hagner in the Glacier racing machine. And they work themselves down into the 2nd to last corner once again. And it looks as though that Hagner is in that dirty air, but not able to close up much further. And we saw he did get past pretty easily earlier on in this race by Rosselli. So perhaps Hagner taking a more conservative route when it comes to, you know, how much downforce he's going to have. And what that means is he's struggling just a little bit to try to make that pass on the 17 car of Kotavara, who now runs in that 4th position. In the meanwhile, we have to go back. It looks as though that Girac has been able to get past Evening, but Evening is going to come back on that outside line. We've seen this be the case all day long. Evening will get clear. He will have to brake in such a way that he doesn't overshoot. Girac falls back down into 2nd position, and Girac now under huge pressure from Dave Geeling. He cannot leave any line open, otherwise Geeling will try to slide down the inside. He's trying to go down the inside there of Evening. He won't be close enough. But with 8 minutes remaining in this race, anyone out of these top 3 cars can make it happen. And a little bit of blocking going on right now with Marcus Girac, who keeps on trying to cut off the nose from Dave Geeling. And we'll see whether he does it once again here. Geeling's going to have to go the long way around as they come down into turn number 8. Will Geeling be able to get past him? He can stay side by side. He'd then have the line into next corner. That is exactly what he'll have, because Girac gets sideways. Here comes Dave Geeling. Can he complete that pass on the inside line? The next 2 corners are left-handers, and he'll get the job done there. Girac falls down from leading at the start of this lap into the 3rd position. And now it's Team Inex Racing 1, Team Inex Racing 2, and the Team Allium car of Marcus Girac is down into the 3rd position in the race. So still a lot to play with just 7 minutes left on the play clock for the first of today's heats. We do know that Norby Kiss will be starting the 2nd of today's heats from pole position. We know Glatzer will be 2nd, we know Laniota will be 3rd, and we know that likely Anthony Rosselli will be in 4th. And in fact, Rosselli is still sat down on pit lane, for those of you who are wondering. But in the battle for the race leaders, now teammate on teammate. Geeling, look how far back he tried to make that dive down into the carousel. He wasn't quite close enough. But the 2 Inex drivers, they won't just settle for any multi 21. They will go and battle to the end of this race. And of course, it's team manager Timo Evening in the 01 car. Dave Geeling in that 2nd position in the number 6 machine. Marcus Girac will want to try and have these 2 squabbles so he can pick them off one at a time. Meanwhile, here comes Joni Hagner. He's going to try and look around the outside there of Petru Kotavara. Kotavara went a little bit wide in turn number 6, went onto the grass, was just about able to get away with it, as Hagner just didn't have the speed coming down into the hairpin. But he's still close as they come down into turn number 8. Will Hagner try and make the late pass? No, he won't. So he stays in the 5th position for the time being. But Kotavara's tyres do look as though they are starting to fall away. And Hagner in that 42 car all over the rear. And last time, Paul Lilbrink in the other Radical car was just as fast, if not a little bit faster, than both Hagner and Kotavara. So that could be a 3-horse race for the top 3 cars, and a 3-horse race for cars 4 through 6. And Alexia Loma is starting to close these up as well. Last time by, actually, Aloma was the 3rd fastest car on the racetrack. Evening still leading from Geeling. They are your top 2 drivers. Marcus Girac in 3rd. Petru Kotavara 4th. Joni Hagner in the 5th position. Paul Lilbrink in 6th. Alexia Loma in 7th. Tobias Zerny in 8th. Henry Voyak hits the wall there. And 9th position. He's going to lose position to Riku Vajay. But Henry Voyak, who's driving a damaged car in that number 79. That car's going to be slightly more damaged now. And it's a very good chance that Glen McGee might be able to close up and get past as Voyak spins it in turn number 1. Serious damage to that race car. Glen McGee's working himself through turn number 1 right now. He'll see the smoke and he'll know that he'll have to pay attention because Voyak's car just isn't working at this stage of the race. After that contact with Anthony Rosselli a little bit earlier on. Timo Evening and Dave Geeling, they look as though they might have settled things now for the time being. Less than 5 minutes to go in this race. Dave Geeling, he keeps on moving that car to the right-hand side. I think it's nothing more than to cover the line from Marcus Girac at this point in time. Although, if Evening makes a mistake, I think that Geeling will go for it. And behind them, it looks as though that Joni Hagner has been able to get past. He's been able to get past, indeed, Petru Kotarara. So move Joni Hagner now up into the 4th position in this race and move Petru Kotarara down into the 5th spot. Paul Ilbrink actually lost a little bit on that last lap. He was 1 second faster the previous time by. This time, despite the fact there was a change in position, Paul Ilbrink losing about half a second. He'll lose a little bit more there as he ran all over the curve on the outside of the final corner. Here comes Super Alexei down to the inside. Will he be able to complete the pass at number 13? Trellet.net car? Yes, he will. And Paul Ilbrink falls down into the 7th position on the racetrack with now just 3 minutes or 2 laps left to go in this race. Gap between Evening and Geelink, that is just 0.2 of a second. I tell you what, Geelink is actually much stronger down into turn 6 than Timo Evening. So much later he can get onto the brakes. Marcus Jurek is now trying to find any possible opportunity to slot it down the inside. He almost had the chance there actually on Dave Geelink down into the hairpin. He almost had enough of the car which to try and slow it down. Wasn't quite close enough. He remained in that 3rd position for the time being. But these top 3 drivers have been going at it since the start of this race. At one point, Jurek and Evening were able to pull out about 1.5 seconds over Dave Geelink. As soon as those two started trading positions, Geelink was able to come right back into the picture. And after Jurek took the lead, then had Evening go around the outside of him, Jurek looked as though he just lost a little bit of confidence and then fell down to that 3rd position. But this time, interestingly, it looks as though that Dave Geelink is going to fall back a little bit, and this could give the chance to Marcus Jurek, as there now are 2 laps left on the play clock. They came past with about 10 seconds left before the start finish line, so there'll be 2 laps left of racing in this race, and Jurek is starting to close into the rear of Dave Geelink, who's starting to fall away this lap from the rear of Timo Evening. This will be interesting to see whether or not Jurek will be able to gain any advantage down the back straightaway if Geelink has a little bit less of the draft. Keeping an eye out on the split times and the miles per hour between these two drivers. Not much at all between any of them, and they continue running line of stern as Hagner's going to come back on the outside once again. Kotarara and Hagner, they're trading positions every single lap right now as they come down into the outside again. It looks as though this time Kotarara will be able to keep that 4th position. Hagner not able to get that car to work on the outside line. And for the time being, it is these two still battling with less than half a second between them on the racetrack. Kotarara in 4th and Joni Hagner rounds out your top 5. Alexei Aloma, ever since being able to get past Paul Ilbrink, hasn't been able to really make any impression on those 2 cars ahead. Of course, Aloma was able to make that pass on Ilbrink a couple of laps ago. That's Super Alexei car still is looking a little bit twitchy. The gap between Aloma and Hagner, that's about 1.1 seconds on the racetrack. If Alexei can gain something in these last couple of corners, he might just get himself into draft range. But right now, all he's doing is he's hurting those tyres, and perhaps Ilbrink might be able to close back up if Alexei messes up this corner, and he almost does mess up this corner. Meanwhile, the white flag is now out. There is just 1 more lap of this race to go, as Evening still leads from Geelink, who still is in 2nd from Marcus Jurek. And as they work themselves up the hill again, I don't think Jurek will have any chance left in this race unless either Geelink or Evening run out of fuel. I think those two are going to pretty much finish now in the top 2 positions. Will Geelink try and make a pass into the carousel? It's going to be close. He's not going to be close enough, however. That was his best opportunity to make the pass. But you see already, he's trying to move that car to the left-hand side to see if we can set something up down into turn number 6, where I said Geelink is so strong. Wasn't quite close enough to do it that last time by, but we'll keep an eye out for the last half lap to see if anything happens between those 2 drivers, or if Marcus Jurek can capitalise. Hagner, by the way, has been able to get himself back past Kotarara as they work themselves through turn 6. Hagner going a little bit over the curb too much. Kotaraya very lucky to avoid running into him. Kotaraya is going to try the outside line down into the hairpin. He'll try and do the cut under now, but Hagner, which is very good at the way he got onto the power, made Kotaraya have to wait to get on himself, and that meant that Hagner could hang on for the time being. Kotaraya is going to try it one more down, turned into the inside, not quite close enough, but for Timo Evening, 2 corners left to go for him. It looks like that Geelink has now given up. They'll come down into the final corner for the final time for the first of today's heat. We've got Carpet Road. That is Henry Voyak. But Timo Evening wins the first of today's heats here in the PolarGT $1,000 Cup. Dave Geelink in second. Marcus Girac in third. And now we're just waiting for this battle between Kotaraya. He just scrapes the wall there. And Joni Hagner. Hagner will take fourth. Kotaraya will have to settle for fifth. Alexia Loma, sixth. Paul Elbrink will come past the line in 7th, and then it'll be Tobias Zerny in 8th. Riku Varjey still working himself on the racetrack, and Glen McGee out of fuel. Glen McGee, who was able to get himself back into the top 10, will lose a position to Wolfgang Waldenhauer. The rest of this track pretty much is downhill from here, but Glen McGee losing a position, and it also looks like perhaps Wolfgang Waldenhauer is a little bit light on fuel as well, and Rico Varjey. They are all very light on fuel. Wolfgang Waldenhauer might be able to gain 2 positions. Indeed, he will gain 2 positions in the final 2 corners as some drivers run out of fuel. That is a good finish there for Wolfgang Waldenhauer, as from nowhere he jumps himself up into the top 10. So, we'll be with you for race results in just one moment. But Timo Evening is your race winner for the first of today's heat. And now everyone is past the start-finish line. We can go to the final classified results for this race. And in fact, we might just be waiting on Henry Voyak to come past the last couple of corners. But we'll carry on regardless. Timo Evening in a time of 31 minutes and 28.493 seconds takes victory from his INX Racing teammate Dave Geelink by a total of 0.7 of a second on the racetrack. Marcus Girac third, Joni Hagner fourth, Petri Kotaraya in fifth, and then Alexia Loma in sixth, Paul Ilbrink seventh, Tobias Zerny eighth, Rico Varjey in ninth, and then Wolfgang Waldenhauer rounding out your top 10. Glen McGee in 11th, Jan-Mari Rapalina in 12th position, Henry Voyak in the 13th position, Anthony Waselli in 14th, the first of your retirees. Your other retirees, Sven Alaniotto, Sven Glatzel, and Norby Kiss. Plenty more racing left to come here on GlacierTV. We're going to invert the field. We're going to do another race. It'll be 35 minutes long. Oh, and I'll have a rolling start as well. We'll be back for that in a couple of minutes' time. Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome to the second part of today's coverage for final round of the 2013 Polar GT Cup here, live on Glacier TV. Going to talk to our in-race supporter for the second of today's heats before we head ourselves to the grid. Team Raven, first of all, you won heat number 1. Pretty hairy for the first part of that race. Some good battles with yourself and Marcus Girac. Now you're in heat 2. You have to come from the rear of the field. Do you think you can do it?
I hope so. The drafting is very, very effective on this track, so I'm hoping to gain a few spots, yes.
Well, we know that historically Onyx Racing have always been very good in straight line speed. We know it in the WCS, we know it also here in Polar GT. Do you think that will help you at the beginning of this race make some big passes coming into the carousel?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
I was going to say, you guys always have good straight line speed. Do you think that will help make some big passes early on this race coming into the carousel?
Yeah, we're running the lowest wing, so I think so.
Well, good luck in heat number 2, and we'll talk to you a little bit later on.
Yes, see you later.
So, going to head ourselves down to the grid for the second of today's heats. And of course, it's a reverse field. And because he was out by turn number 4 in heat number 1, Norby Kiss, by default, starts this race in first position. Glen McGee in second. Sven Glatz will be starting alongside him in row number 1. Stefano Laniotto, Anthony Rosselli will be starting this race in heat number 2. Of course, Glatzel had that incident on lap 2 of the last race, which then Stefano Laniotto was the innocent bystander who just had nowhere to go as Glatzel's car came to a stop. Anthony Rosselli, well, he had his own incident as well with Henry Voyak, who starts this race in the 5th position. Running up on the 3rd row alongside the number 79 machine will be Jarmo Rapavalinia. And then in row 4, Glen McGee and Wolfgang Wardenhor. Row 5, Rookie Varche and Tobias Zerny. Row number 6 will be Paul Ilbrink and Alexia Aloma. And then in row number 7, Petro Tokavara and Yoni Hagner. Row number 8, Marcus Chirac and Dave Geeling. And then, starting from the rear, because he won heat number 1, in the 17th position is Timo Evenham. Differences between this race and the race that we saw a little bit earlier on today. 35 minutes. 5 minutes can make a big difference in these cars. As the tyre temperatures really start to heat up, things get a little bit more interesting, shall we say, in the last 5 minutes. And also, it's a rolling start. You see the cars currently working themselves on that warm-up lap. And that's comparable to the standing start that we had early on today. And, of course, we have that inverted field as well. So they look to see the likes of Evelyn, Geeling, and Girac try and make their way through the field. We know that Evelyn can pass. We know that Geeling can pass. We know that Girac can pass. It'll be a case of how they can avoid incidents at the first part of this race. And because I'm bored, and because I am lead commentator for Glacier TV, and the fact that I'm all by myself, I might bring myself a co-commentator in a minute. Give me 1 second. So, yeah, I'm going to bring myself in a co-commentator. I'm going to have to give him a name. I'm going to call him John. So, John, what are you looking forward to in the race here today? Well, you see, I'm thinking that what we might be able to do is if these cars can just work themselves for those first couple of laps, and there's a good chance we can get ourselves some good racing both up and down the field. What we're going to need to see, however, is a good clean start, because if we don't get that, then there could be chaos. We could be looking at 4 cars making it through the first couple of laps if everyone tries to push a little bit too hard too early on. So, Norby Kiss, as I say, he'll be starting this race from the 1st position. There's a good chance, actually, that Kiss will be able to win this race due to the fact that the likes of Girac, Geeling, and Evelyn that we talked about already, they've got to come from the rear of the field. Kiss started the last race in the 4th position. Therefore, he's got a good chance of, he's got good speed, both in qualifying spec and race spec. As long as he doesn't have one of those incidents with the wall again, then there's a good chance that that number 15 car could actually drive it to victory lane for the second of today's heats. Pace car currently working himself down into turn number 9. And we're going to get set to go racing for 35 minutes. The final round of the Polar GT $1,000 Cup. And it's here. It's live. It's on Glacier TV. Wil Vincent with my good friend John, who I've just met. I've actually just made up with you for the next 35 minutes. And to all of you Twitter followers, no, I'm not drinking. But at Wil Vincent with 1 L, please. Pace car, about to make that hard left turn, right turn even, down towards pit road. The final time this season, let's get the show on the road. The green flag in hand. We are racing here in Polar GT. Kiss stacking up the field early. That could confidence. Glatzel's going to be alongside as they come down into turn number 1. They are 3 abreast coming down into that first corner for the first time. Are there going to be any casualties? The answer is no, but they're going to remain too wide as they come up the hill. And this is what some of these guys did not want to see. They're all finally single file. It is Kiss from Glatzel, from Rosselli, from Laniotto, from Vera, from Rapalinia as they come down for the first time. And here comes Glatzel around the outside. The draft working early for the number 10 car as he goes around the outside there of Norby Kiss. Will he be able to complete that pass? No, he won't. He will have to remain in the second position for the time being. Anthony Rosselli in the third position, and Laniotto just starting to fall back a little bit in that 4th spot. Going to give you an update on the top 3 drivers from the last race, see where they are in the field, and they've only been able to make up 1 position each so far. It is packed at the roar of this field. Dave Geeling's looking down to the inside of Wolfgang Wildenhorn. Chirac almost running into the rear of the OSR car as they come out of the hairpin. The 44 car's actually been able to box in Timur Evelyn. Evelyn has nowhere to go at this point in time. That was a good offensive call there by Marcus Jacques. He should actually become an NFL offensive coordinator. But Evelyn finally able to get past. They come up the hill for the first time. There is still a lot of cars in a very small place of place. And look at that, Cotterbar around 2 cars. As Rapalino was not able to get the power down coming out of turn number 9. Hagner now going to go down to the inside him. Marcus Jacques has actually been able to get himself past Dave Geeling. And they were almost 3 abreast there into the final corner. Geeling completes that pass on the outside line. And Evelyn, like a pack of wolves, those top 3 drivers are now finally able to get past John Murray in that number 1 machine. So at the conclusion of lap number 1, it is Kiss from Glatzel. The gap is now up to 7/10 of a second on the racetrack, and it does look as though that Kiss had a very good turn number 1. Timing and scoring up on your screen right now. And it looks like Glatzel is nowhere near going to be close enough to try and make that pass. This time, he's going to have to pay attention to Anthony Rosselli, however. He's going to look down to the inside, and Rosselli not quite close enough to complete that pass. And you see a little bit sideways there for the Radical driver. Glatzel also a little bit sideways, but they carry on going as they come down into turn number 6 once again. And behind them, Vierock actually is having a pretty good race so far, putting a lot of pressure on Laniotto. Of course, Vierock, as I said, was involved in that incident in the last race with Anthony Rosselli, which meant that they both started a lot higher up the field than he expected in the second race, and Rosselli on the grass there, coming out of the hairpin, he's going to lose 2 positions, 1 to Laniotto, and also 1 to Henry Vierock as well, and also Glen McGee going to get past, and Alexia Loma almost there, being to complete that pass as well. Let's give you an update again on those top 3 drivers from the rear of the field, because it looks as though that Evelyn is struggling to make some passes right now, and he's got Joni Hagner between himself and Dave Geeling, and of course, also, Marcus Jacques was able to get past Dave Geeling in the first lap of this race. He now is scored in the 11th position, trying to close down Petru Cotavara in that battle for 10th. You have to note right now that that is scored at a total of 9/10 of a second. And that gap between Norby Kiss and Glen Glatzel, that's kind of settled down for the time being. Glatzel wasn't losing much, wasn't gaining much there at all. He lost, say, 2/10 from that first corner. But since then, he's actually been able to close that gap a little bit. And you see already, Norby Kiss is going defensive. And he's doing 2 moves there. That's not classified as blocking yet. because of the fact that Glatzel is so far back, but Glatzel is able to bring that gap down to actually half a second, and Lanioto's been able to go down the inside of Henry Voyuk in the battle for third position. Lanioto able to complete that pass there on Voyuk, and here comes Glen McGee. Will he be able to try and go side by side? No, he won't. He'll need to try and find a way sliding alongside, because look at who's coming behind him. It's Anthony Vasali. He's back on the charge position all the way from third down into sixth as Lanioto and Voyuk continue their battle. I had to take that back, actually. It was Voyuk who was going on the outside of Lanioto, not Lanioto passing Voyuk. But Voyuk is looking very strong at the start of this race, and Vasali right there in the mix as well. And you've also got, as I say, Alexia Loma in 7th position, Paul Ilbrink in 8th. You've got a big train. What this is going to do, it will hurt the likes of, again, Girac, Geeling, and also Evener. And by the way, Evener has now been stuck behind Yoni Hagner for an entire lap, not able to get past. So right now, Evener only runs in the 14th position on the racetrack. As they come past the start-finish line, I'll give you an idea of what the gaps are. Lanioto to Voyuk, 2 tenths of a second. Voyuk to McGee, 2 tenths of a second. McGee to Vasali, 3 tenths of a second. Aloma, 4 tenths further back. And then Ilbrink, a further 4 tenths of a second back. This is the closest that we're talking about. Journey in the 9th position is only half a second behind Ilbrink. And then Cotterara only 6 tenths of a second behind Tobias Journey. It is closer in this part of the field. And I think actually Paul Ilbrink might, yeah, he did just raise the barrier there. And that cost him a ton of time. He almost did a Norby kiss there. Coming at turn number 4. Went very, very wide. And he's lost positions now to both Aloma. Aloma goes wide there. That's going to allow Ilbrink to go back past. That also allows Cotterara to go past. And it also allows perhaps Girac to get past. Girac not quite close enough. And we've got a spin on this McGee there. Glen McGee in that all-green car. Just losing it. Coming out of turn at number 6. McGee has had a horrible weekend. It continues to go back. I think he might have got a tap. Did he get a tap? No, he didn't get a tap. He just got loose all by himself. Anthony Vasali right behind, able to get out of the way. But McGee falls down the field. And once again, pretty much he's at the rear of this field. As we're going to put 4 laps in the books this time by. We've also got Geeling getting himself past Wolfgang Waldenhauer. And we've also got something else going on the racetrack as well. So Geeling was able to get him past Wolfgang Waldenhauer. And also Sven Glatzel's been able to maintain that gap in the battle for the race lead for the time being. Let's run through your top 10. Kiss from Glatzel, gap 9 tenths of a second. Henry Voyuk in 3rd. He a further 3.5 back. Anthony Vasali 2 tenths further back in 4th. Lanioto, he's fallen back a little bit. He's now half a second behind in 5th. Paul Ilbrink 6th. Tobias Zerny 7th. Petru Cotterara 8th. Alexia Loma 9th. And Marcus Girac round out your top 10. And by the way, Glen McGee went back and he hit the wall again after that incident. So he is now well down the field. And right now, Marcus Girac going to go around the outside of Alexi Loma, and he will complete that pass. Perhaps they're too wide, too deep through the carousel there. Girac stays side by side. He'll now have the line into the next corner, turn number 6, but he has to brake a little bit early because the other car, the Apex Racing car there, Toby Zerny brakes a little bit earlier. Girac going a little bit sideways. This might allow Loma a little bit of tapping there as they come down into the hairpin. Loma to try and come back down on the inside. Loma will retake that position. And that's the sort of thing when you're running too wide, too deep. And here comes Girac once again. He's going to try and go around the outside line into turn number 8. Great racing here. This time it does look as though Girac will be able. No, he won't. Here comes Loma once again. Girac has to try and stay side by side. The next 2 corners are left-handers. But Loma is able to complete that pass. So, still, it is Norby Kiss scored as your race leader. We've had about 6 minutes of this race only complete so far. Norby Kiss still scored as, say, your race leader. Glatzel still scored in 7th. And here comes Marcus Girac once again. I'm going to keep it with him for the time being. He's the highest of these cars. And I have to let you know, actually, Gabe Geeling's had a mistake as Girac down to the inside. We will complete that pass this time over Alexi Aloma. And now, the thing is though, Aloma's just going to come right back at them as soon as they come out of this complex of corners. We know that Girac has been running a little bit more wing than we know of cars in this field. That might hurt him, especially as Aloma is all over the rear. Not quite going to be close enough this time actually to complete that pass. And Timur Evening's right there in the mix as well in the INX Racing 01 car as they come down into the carousel once again. Still keeping an eye on this battle. Evening is looking very racy all of a sudden. He knows that Girac's been able to get past. He knows that Girac is going to be... see that Aloma actually just letting Timur Evening go past there. Nice little bit of slight outs between these finish drivers, but they are too wide through the hairpin here. It's tough to keep an eye out on what's going on. Risali on the outside of Henry Voyak. They are battling for position. Will Risali be able to keep the position there? The next two corners, as I say after this, are left-handers, and Voyak will have to yield that position with Risali up into third. Also, you've got Paul Ilbring. He's been battling with Stefano Leniotto. And looks like that battle's calmed itself down for these couple of corners. Petru Cortavara in seventh was right there in the mix. But Girac now all over the rear of Petru Cortavara as they work themselves down into the final corner. Once again, we've got a spinner. And it's once again, I think that is Henry Voyak in the same place he had that incident in the previous race. In the same place, and I tell you what, I've not got this confirmed, but I think it's one of the Radical drivers. This time it's Ilbrink who got a little bit of a contact this time with Henry Voyak. Voyak, 2 races in a row in the same corner, having the same incident, both times putting him out of the race. It is not Voyak's day at all here in PolarGT action. Meanwhile, this battle in mid-pack continues as Tobias Zerny just getting past there by Marcus Girac and also Stefano Leniotto again all over the rear of Petru Cortavara in the battle for the last of the top 5 position. Leniotto looking very strong here actually in that number 2 car. Cortavara goes wide. This will allow Leniotto to at least go side by side. Can he brake late enough? He leaves that outside line. He looks as though he won't be able to complete the pass there. He tries to play a little bit too nice there with Cortavara. Cortavara, he wouldn't have been able to turn in at the point he would have done. In fact, Leniotto would have been able to get that inside line, but they're still going to run too wide. A little bit of bump drafting there, actually, with Marcus Girac just pushing Cortavara into the corner. And it actually helps Cortavara out a little bit because he was able to complete that pass back on Leniotto. But here comes Marcus Girac, and he looks as though he's in a big hurry right now. So, right now, it is still this battle for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th position on the racetrack ahead of them. It's spread out a little bit. It's Cortavara going sideways once again. This will allow Leniotto to try the outside line once again as they come down into turn number 1. You see Cortavara pinching him all the way down to the white line. So Cortavara might just be able to keep that position, but here comes Girac. Girac will have the inside line. If he tries to push it into the first part of these S's, he will try and push it. And Leniotto, always a little bit of contact there. They're side by side up the hill. And Girac is having to keep that power down. But Girac will have the inside line. This is the important part into the carousel. And it looks as though Leniotto has been struggling a little bit offline. And is that Leniotto getting a push there by Timo Evening? It was indeed. And a little bit of action going on there. Evening trying to keep Leniotto ahead of Girac. Wasn't able to do so. Girac does move himself up into the 6th position on the racetrack. And Evening, he has a little bit of a wiggle right now. So that could put him under a little bit of pressure from Tobias Zerny. But these drivers, all the way from pretty much now, Cortavara, back, Leniotto, Girac, Evening, Zerny, they have already been in the thick of it. And just to let you know as well that Alexi Aloma has been able to get past Tobias Zerny in this lap. We've got a car off, and that is Sven Glatzel. Sven Glatzel is out of the race. And so Sven Glatzel, this was coming out of the hairpin. We'll get a replay up on your screen, working on lap number 8. He just gets a little bit sideways, runs over touches the grass very slippery here today, spears it into the Armco barrier, and we have seen from experience, if you touch that Armco, your race is over. Sven Glatzel's race is indeed over. He pulled it off the side of the racetrack. Sven Glatzel, who was running in the second position, will now be classified in about the 15th position in this race. And from here on in, you've got to argue that this is just pretty much going to be a walk for Norby Kiss, as that gap between himself and Anthony Rosselli, well, that is right now 7.8 seconds on the racetrack. And Rosselli, last time by, he did a 1:45.6. Norby Kiss a 1:44.8. We'll see what their lap times are. They'll come past the start finish line once again, and it will be another 1:44.8 for Kiss, a 1:45. Yep, for Anthony Rosselli. So Rosselli isn't really making any impact at all on that battle for the race lead, and in fact, Paul Ilbrink in the other Radical Steel Series car is now right up behind him. That last time by, Paul Ilbrink in the 41 was a full half a second quicker than his teammate in the number 17 machine. So let's run through your field then. Norby Kiss in the number 15 car. Of course, he started this race in pole position. He has led every single lap. He put a foot wrong a little bit too early in heat number 1, hitting the wall on turn 4 of lap 1. Right now, he leads away by 7.6 seconds over Anthony Rosselli. Rosselli started this race in 4th position, being able to work himself up into the 2nd position. He's got his teammate, however, right behind him, Paul Ilbrink, who started this race down in 11th and is now running in the 3rd position on the racetrack. Petru Kotarara a further 3.1 seconds back. He started in 13th, really able to make himself some good moves early on in this race, running in that 4th position right now, but has Marcus Jirac just 0.3 of a second behind him, who runs in the 5th position. And Timo Evening right behind the Team Allion driver once again, and these two might be looking to resume one of their battles from heat number 1, as they right now are separated to say 0.3 of a second. The only difference is, of course, that Jirac does have a draft this time on Petru Kotarara, so Timo Evening won't have it as an easy ride here, and this will be interesting to see. Will Evening go to the left with Jirac, or will he go to the right with Petru Kotarara? It does look as though Evening is going to try and go to the right-hand side. They're going to be too wide into the carousel, and Kotarara goes a little bit sideways, but will complete the corner ahead of Jirac. So Jirac has to slot back into line, and Evening, oh look at this, Jirac around the outside, and Jirac going sideways there. Evening's going to go past, and Evening will go past, and here comes Laniotto as well around the outside. We know Laniotto struggled a little bit there, so indeed it does allow Jirac to stay ahead. And also, because Laniotto went wide once again, here comes Super Alexi. Alexi doesn't have the draft, however, so Laniotto will just be able to keep that 7th position, but Alexi's going to try it down the inside. Oh, a little bit of contact there between the two finish drivers, and Alexi Aloma forces his way through. Laniotto going to lose another position there to Tobias Zerny as he goes offline into turn number 8. So now Laniotto is scored down in the 9th position on the racetrack. Let's give you an update on the retirees from this race so far. We've got Sven Glatzel. He is finished in the 15th position. He scored 2 laps down. Glen McGee, 5 laps down. Yarmari Rapalinia is scored 7 laps down. They are your 3 retirees. The last guy on the lead lap, well, that is Wolfgang Waldenhorst in the 14th position. He's running about 2 seconds slower than everyone else in the field right now. But out front, it is Norby Kiss from Anthony Rosselli, and Paul Ilbrink actually has been able to close that gap up to his Radical teammate, and he's staying behind him. However, he would have had the chance to make the pass there down into the carousel. He just wasn't quite close enough there. In fact, he was close enough. He just didn't decide to put that car to the right-hand side. So the 2 Radical teammates, for the time being, are holding station, even though Ilbrink is a couple of tenths of a second a lap faster than Anthony Rosselli, the American, in that number 70 car. Perhaps for the 2 Radical cars, the one thing that they are trying to do is make sure they've got enough gap in themselves and the likes of Timo Evening and Marcus Jirac. And by the way, Timo Evening has been able to get himself past Marcus Girac, as we reported just one lap ago. But then Marcus Girac has been able to get himself back past Timo Evenen. So I said that those two might be resuming their battles. Indeed they are. There's a lot of contact there. Evenen, he just forces his way down into turn number 9. Contact between those two drivers, and that pushes Marcus Girac 2 positions back there. I'm sure race control might have a look at that after the race, because that was slightly over ambitious to say the least there for Timo Evenen in the 01 car. We'll try and get ourselves a replay of that up on your screen in a moment. But say this was down into turn number 9, lap number 11 of the race, just as we passed the halfway point. And coming down into the corner, I mean, Evenen was way back. He was about, what, 2 car lengths back coming into the braking zone. Brakes much later. Slide this car, lots of brakes up, I don't know. But then himself and Girac just had contact. Girac loses 2 positions there. And Timo Evenen is now actually trying to work on Petru Kotarara in that battle for 4th position on the racetrack. Will Evenen slow it down the inside? Indeed he will. It looks like Kotarara doesn't give him any issues there at all. And Evenen was just able to do the slide job. Here he goes up into the 4th position. So they carry on. They carry on with 15 minutes just under left here to go in this race. And for Marcus Girac, I'm sure he will not be best pleased with what just occurred right there. And he's now fallen, say, behind Alexia Loma. He's behind Petru Kotarara. And importantly, he is behind Timo Evenen. He's going to try and go around the outside of Alexia Loma down into turn number 8. Will he be close enough to make this pass? I'm not quite sure if he'll be able to hold it. He does get a good run off the corner, however. As I keep on saying, the next 2 corners are left-hander. He should be able to complete the pass here. We know Loma can be good on the outside line, but Girac does complete that pass just. And Loma won't have the chance to get past for at least the next couple of corners. So, Marcus Girac there. He's starting his charge back, but I'm sure, really am sure that he would want to get back ahead of Timo Evenen. And the question is, of course, as well, will he even give that position back, or would he prefer to run the risk, perhaps, of, you know, having to take the penalty post-race after to see what happens on that one? Of course, in the championship standings, Girac is 118 points back from Dave Glen. Robbie Kiss has got the championship sewn up already, and it'll be a fitting statement the fact that he does win the last round of the championship. He already has 4 wins and 11 top 5. For Timo Evenen, of course, he's not really racing for the championship here. Dave Gieling is, but Gieling's struggling right now. He's only in the 9th position, so the idea of making sure that Girac finishes his race as close to, shall we say, Dave Gieling as possible will negate any point advantage that Girac could get. That could make a big difference in the final point standings. As I say, a little over 13 minutes of this, little under now 13 minutes of this race to go. All depends, of course, on exactly when they come past the start-finish line and when they get the white flag. It could be like it was in the last race where they came past with just 10 seconds left to go. It could be that they actually get the white flag and then the checkered flag 10 seconds later. And of course, last race that did count out a couple of people. People like Glen McGee, for example, and Ricky Varja, who both lost out there on the last lap. Wolfgang Waldenhall was able to gain up 2 positions. 2 positions there, just because 2 guys ahead of him ran out of fuel. The gap right now between Paul Ilbrink and Anthony Rosselli, that remains at 4 tenths of a second, but they have been able to put a little bit of a gap over Timo Evenen. We'll see what the lap times are actually between Evenen and Paul Ilbrink. Timo Evenen did a 144.8 actually that last time by. Paul Ilbrink a 145.4, so actually Evenen is coming. And that gap has started to come down. There was this lap, 2 laps, 3 laps to go where Evenen did struggle, lost a little bit of time. But this is why the 2 radical teammates are working together, because they know before the end of this race, so long as the likes of Girac doesn't try to get past and those 2 carry on fighting, there's a good chance that Evenen might need to get himself up into 2nd position in this race. The gap right now, 3.2 seconds on the racetrack is Girac. Oh, he's going to try and go around the outside here into turn 6 over Petru Kotarara. Not quite going to be close enough there. And you not think he's going to try and go down the outside into the hairpin. No, he won't. So Marcus Girac remains in that 6th position for the time being. Let us know your thoughts, by the way, on that incident between Timo Evening and Marcus Girac. Use the hashtag PolarGT, alternatively follow myself at Wil Vincent with 1L, not 2, please. And I say for Girac, I'm sure he must be livid in that Team Alley on number 44 car because of the fact that it really did chop him back. You know, he's got now Petru Cottararo between himself and Timo Evening. We know that Cottararo is a very good driver. We know the fact that Petru Cottararo is no slouch, and that also he can be very difficult to pass. And it does look as though that Timo Evening would much rather have Petru Cottararo behind him than Marcus Girac. So he's been helping out Cottararo when it comes to the draft situation on the back straight just a little bit. In fact, we're going to try and get ourselves an aerial camera. We'll try and have a look to see exactly what happens this time. Although Evening and Cottararo both run over the curb just a little bit there. So Girac, if he gets close enough, he might have a chance. He's only 4 tenths back, but he needs to get a good run down this back straight away. And I don't think he's going to be close enough this time. And also, look at this. Paul Ilbrink from nowhere. He's fallen back 2 seconds now. And Timo Evening is within 8 tenths of a second of him as they come down into the carousel once again. So all of a sudden, Paul Ilbrink has fallen from the rear of Antonio Uselli. And now Evening has got a 1 foot almost on the podium. This will be interesting. As Paul Ilbrink, his last lap was at 147.4. Might Paul Ilbrink just be a little bit light on fuel? Or, I mean, we'll have to see whether Paul Ilbrink made a mistake or not in that number 41 car. Even, oh no, Ilbrink goes sideways. That's going to allow. That's going to be very easy there for Timo Evening, as Ilbrink just lost it coming out of the hairpin. And look at the car's freight train him. And I tell you what, Evening's going to love this because Ilbrink slots in behind Cottararo, but ahead of Marcus Girac. And Girac wasn't able to get the job done in turn 8 or into turn 9. So another car now between Timo Evening and Marcus Girac. This really is starting to fall into the hand of Evening. I think he wants to make sure that there is few cars between Girac and Gieling as possible. Right now there are 2. And Gieling is 26 seconds behind your race leader. He's got a 10-second gap to close to Tobias Zerny. And right now isn't really running as fast as them. So, a lot to happen in the last 10-ish minutes of this race here on GlacierTV. It's the final round of the PolarGT $1,000 Cup. And we do apologise, by the way, for some of these scoring issues that we've been having with Paul Ilbrink. We have no idea why. I don't know why. Someone will tell me why one day. But Kiss still leads away, and that gap now between himself and Antonio Uselli is up to a total of 11 seconds almost on the racetrack. Timo Evening, well, he's still closing. That gap is now 2.7 seconds between himself and Antonio Uselli. And for Timo Evening, I mean, if he carries on, if it's clean air, it's not as if we're going to get many lap cars here, then that gap could be closed within the next 2 laps. That will give Evening 3 laps to put the pressure on Uselli and try and get past him so he can finish second in this race. Let's say so far, just the 3 retirees. Everyone else is still circling, and most of them actually without incident at all. So we're going to keep an eye for the time being on a battle with Alexia Loma, Marcus Girac, Paul Ilbrink, Petru Cottararo and Timo Evening. We've been with it now for pretty much the last 10 minutes, but it is by far the best action we have on the racetrack. And Tobias Zerny is trying to catch up to the rear of this group as well. Right now he's 1.2 seconds back in the Apex Racing UK car. His last lap was a 145.4. Aloma did a 145.1. Aloma last time did a 1 minute 44.6. Tobias Zerny a 1 minute 45.1. So he lost half a second that last lap. Perhaps this is the tyre situation that I talked about at the start of the second half of the broadcast, where those extra 5 minutes can make a big difference. Don't forget, in the last race, we'll be in the situation where we're approaching the white flag, you know, all bets are off. Here, you've still got 3 more laps to go, and those 3 laps can be a huge difference maker in the closing stage of this race. I see a car just peeking to the right-hand side there. That is Marcus Girac. He's going to go down the inside. Oh, no! Contact between himself and Paul Ilbrink. Paul Ilbrink goes very, very wide. That is going to allow Girac to go past. It will allow Alexei Aloma to go past. And importantly, it might just allow Toby Azerni to get back into the draft there, because he lost it big time that last lap. But we'll get a replay up there. I'm just trying to have a look to see with Paul Ilbrink. He just came down actually into Girac. I think he thought that Girac would be able to do the slide job. He completed the pass by the time that he turned into the corner. And you have to say that was Ilbrink's fault there. He just turned too sharply into the corner, and that cost him dramatically. And here comes, again, Girac trying to make the pass on Petri Kotavara. He wasn't quite close enough, but he gave it a good old stab. Whilst this is all going on, of course, even into the sunset, and Aloma forcing his way through in the same place that Timo Evelyn tried to force his way through. And the 2-1, Girac spun around. Girac spun around into the gravel. And Girac, his race has gone from good to not bad to absolutely abysmal there. He is going to fall well down the field now. He's brought his car back onto the racetrack. And will he have to bring it onto pit road? No, he doesn't. He stays out. And Dave Geeling now just 1.3 seconds back on the racetrack. We'll have to get ourselves a replay of that. And it's in two stages there. You had Alexei Aloma first, as I say, down into turn number 9. It was a mirror performance almost of what happened with himself and Evelyn, because Girac was trying to make the pass. He's trying to set himself up to make the pass on Petri Kotavara, and then storming down the inside come Alexei, and there's a little bit of contact between those two drivers as they worked themselves through turn number 9, and then they came down into turn number 10, and that's when Girac just got spun onto the grass. I'm just trying to see what sort of incident it was there. They're very close together, and I think actually, yeah, Aloma just got sideways down into the curb in turn 10, and his rear end stepped out. That touched the side bodywork of the alien machine of Girac, but Girac is not going to be happy with that. I mean, he was trying to do everything he can to get as many points over Geeling as possible, and it's all just gone down the pan for him. So then let's take a moment to run through your top 10. Now things have just calmed down a tiny bit. Norbert Kiss still leads by 11 seconds over Anthony Rosselli. Timo Evelyn, well, he's eating into that gap. Right now, he might not be close enough. It's 1.8 seconds on the racetrack. We've got 3 minutes and 15 seconds left on the play clock. So, he's going to have to gain a second a lap to really have a chance. I'll give you an update to see how many laps we're going to have left at the start-finish line. We'll let you know then. But the issue is now, Kotavara is in 4th, Aloma in 5th. Paul Ilbrink in 6th, Toby Azerni 7th. Yoni Hagner 8th, Dave Geeling in 9th. And then it is Henry Voyart and then Marcus Girac on the racetrack. So it looks as though that there's been another issue for Marcus Girac. He's fallen down into the 14th position. So something has happened to Marcus Girac after we stopped putting the cameras at him. He's fallen down into the 14th position. He pretty much is now the last car on the lead lap, with the exception of, in fact, no, Girac's out of the race. Girac has pulled his car over by the look of it, and Marcus Girac is now out of the race. Important news there in the final part of this race. I'm just trying to see exactly what happened to Girac. He just pulled his car off, game over. Girac is out of the race now. And this was with 2 minutes left on the clock. To give you an update, as I say, it's going to be very close once again. We will just get, by my watch, 2 more laps in. The play clock right now, actually, at 1 minute 50, which might just be the white flag this time by. Play clock down to 1 minute 45, 144, 143. Now you see Kiss comes past. This will be the last lap of the race as they come down into turn number 1. And it's actually, we believe it's electrical issues for Marcus Girac. Some issues with his car, which put him out of the race, so he didn't have another crash, to say. Just simply issues there for Marcus Girac and his championship charge. I know he's trying to gain some positions there, trying to get himself ahead of Dave Geeling. It didn't go to plan in the final round of the season. But Kiss, it's just half a lap to go to redeem himself for what happened in the first heat of the race when he crashed his car into turn number 4. For Asali, also a little bit of retribution. He had that moment with Tapano Lenioto where he had nowhere to go and put himself out of the race with just 2 laps of the race score complete. Timo Evening, he's been able to drive his way from the rear of the field, 17th up into the 3rd position. He's had to work for it, and also he's only 0.6 of a second right now behind Anthony Maselli. He could be looking at 2nd place in this race with half a lap of it left to go. Petri Kotarara is in 4th position, and he's had a pretty determined drive. But of course, coming out of this race, there'll be 2 questions. Timo Evening and Alexia Loma on Marcus Girac at the same corner, turn number 9. Was it aggressive driving? Was it a racing incident? Was it avoidable contact? Keep an eye out on GlacierTV. We'll let you know in the days after this race. In the meanwhile, however, Norby Kiss, he's going to come out the final corner. He's going to come past the start-finish line. He came in as the championship leader. He will leave as the champion. Norby Kiss wins heat number 2 here at the Glen. Anthony Maselli comes home in the 2nd position there. He will just be able to keep it. Timo even at the line was just 0.6 of a second further back. Petteri Kotavara and 4th, and then Paul Ilbrink in 5th. And I am wrong, there is still one more round of the championship left to go. I don't know. I only get paid to I don't even get paid to commentate. I don't know what I'm talking about. Leave me alone. I know what I'm doing. Alexia Loma in the 6th position. Tobias Cerny in 7th. Yoni Hagner 8th. Dave Gieling 9th. Henry Voyak. They round out your top 10. We'll have full results in a moment. With Norby Kiss winning here. And the important thing is, as I say, that Marcus Girac in that number 44 car, 14th, did not finish after electrical performance issues hurt him. There were 2 laps of the race left to go. Just nothing left in that number 44 Team Alien machine. We'll be right back with final race results in just one moment. Come on then, let's get yourself some final race results here in PolarGT. And it is Norby Kiss who comes home in the 1st position, as I say. 11.9 seconds at the end over Anthony Rosselli. A spirited drive by Rosselli, actually, where Timo Even breathing down his neck in the final lap of the race. Even in 3rd, Petru Kotarara in 4th, Paul Ilbrink in 5th, Alexia Loma in 6th, Tobias Cerny in 7th, Yoni Hagner 8th, Dave Gieling 9th, and then Henry Voyak rounds out your top 10. Rookie Vajay in 11th, Tapana Lenioto 12th, and Wolfgang Wardenhut in 13th. They are the last cars to finish the race for retirees. Marcus Girac, Zen Glatzel, Glenn McGee, and Yamari Rapalinia, who are all retired from the race. I suppose we might as well go and talk to some people. Let's see who we're going to pick up first. Seymour Evening, you're live on GlacierTV. Came home 3rd. You were close. You tried to get that 2nd place away from Anthony Maselli in the last lap of the race. Just nowhere to do it.
Nah, if there would have been one more lap, I think I could have had a shot at it. But Anthony held his nerves together and got the car 2nd, so good job to him.
And it was difficult for you to gain positions in this race, especially in the first 10-15 minutes or so. You were stuck behind Yoni Hagner for a couple of laps. And then, of course, originally, both Gieling and Girac were ahead of you. But then, of course, Girac had his mistake, and something happened to Gieling here to get yourself into position. But importantly, take us through that move down into turn number 9 with yourself and Marcus Girac. It did look as though you really were trying to push the issue there to get that position back.
Yeah, maybe a bit, but you know, Robin is racing, so I don't see that there's anything wrong with that. A few straights before that, he brake checked me on the straight, so he really can't complain about anything.
And in the end, 2 good finishes. First place, third place. Look, good to take away in that 019X racing car.
Yeah, overall happy with the result. I drove this combo yesterday, so I had a few laps in already, so...
Did that actually make a bit of an advantage to all these drivers that turned up today? I mean, because the competition spread was a lot closer than what we're normally used to. Of course, normally the drivers have to pick up a track and a setup and work, because the schedule doesn't necessarily line up with what you get in the iRacing official series. With the big race in 2 hours, you know, endurance style racing yesterday was 30 and 35-minute sprint races, you know, a lot easier than what would be in a normal week.
Yeah, I was the most prepared in this grid, so I kind of have that to thank for my results. But what was the second part of the question again?
I don't know. Was it easier doing 2 short races now after, you know, having this long 2-hour endurance race yesterday?
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely. The only problem is that these races are a lot more crazy, so anything can happen, like you saw. I think we almost died like 10 times.
Well done. First and third place there for Timo Evenham. Let's talk to
Can
the
I-
couple. Go on.
Can I thank someone?
No,
I want to.
go on.
Thanks to my mates in Club Finland. See you.
Bye. Well done. But I'm just I won't drag him back. Toby Azerni in the 101 car. Congratulations, 7th place finish for you here in the second of today's seats in that Apex Racing UK car. That's been 2 incredibly crazy races for you here today. You started heat number 2 in 10th due to finishing heat number 1 in I don't know what position. And then heat number 2 today, 7th place. Good overall day for the Apex Racing car.
Yeah, hello guys. Yes, very good result for me this time. I was glad I could keep up with the faster guys in front for most of the time, and didn't make any big mistakes, and yeah, got benefit from others drivers bad luck and so on, and pretty happy with the result. Best result here in the series so far.
Well, it's like that second race especially, it was crazy the entire race. I mean, you had what? You, Timo Evenham, Petru Cottararo, Paul Lilbrink, Alexia Lomo, Yoni Hagner, them, and at points Dave Geelink and also Marco Chirac, pretty much running nose to tail. Just how tough was the racing in that mid-pack here today, and how important was it to just not put a foot wrong?
Was very, very tough. Well, the good thing for me was that there most of the time was no car directly behind me, and unfortunately I think I got to a too high wing setting. My car didn't have really top speed, and I think I could do on the straights there, so I just hang in the slipstream, and yeah, also bet my fastest lap times here so far, so I was even faster than the quali. And yeah, I was hoping that something might go wrong in front to gain another positions, but attacking was not no option. And if I was in front due to some driver's mistake, yeah, he catch me on the next straight. So it was fun driving behind the other guys, but was a little bit not able to attack.
And say 2 good finishes. A lot of people saying that the fact that they had a 2-hour endurance race yesterday really did help out with the 2 sprint races here today. Of course, they've won a lot of people racing in the 2 hours at the Glen yesterday. A, did you race? B, how did you do? And C, did it make a difference?
No, I didn't race there. It was too late for me. I started practicing today half an hour before the official start, which was delayed, so quite happy with the result, but I still have no clue how to get the car any faster than 44.8.
Well, good job in that Apex Racing UK car. Toby Azerni. And let's see whether or not I can drag Petru Cottararo out. What I'll do is I'll move him slowly because he knows then I'm coming.
Eilen, tai milloin se nyt silloin kattokaa, niin se aika paska oli silloin Montrealissa.
No one is listening to you anymore. You're talking to me, sweetheart. Hello.
Oh, hi Will. How's it going?
I'm alright, I suppose. by the way, love you, Dan. Love you, Rob. Thank you. 5th place, 4th place. 2 good finishes. 2 top 5s. Well done.
Thank you. I couldn't ask better. It was my maximum result for the races, both first and second one. And the race and the battles we had, it just was awesome. I couldn't ask more.
You say that second race especially, it was very close racing yourself. Timo Weaver, Marcus Jurek, Alexia Loma, Paul Lilbring, Toby Azerny. Very, very, very close racing all the way through that mid-pack. One question was that you let Timo Weaver almost go past when he came up behind you about 15 minutes into the race. Was that just because of the fact that you knew that he was going to get past anyway, and you didn't want to waste too much time in the hope that you might close up to the Radical Duo running in 2nd and 3rd position?
Our tactic was actually that if I let Teemu go, I will get a draft from him, so Teemu was faster than me obviously, but I didn't want to waste time for him, and I just tried to stay in his draft, and our target was to get those Radical guys, Paul and Rosselli. Yeah, so after that it was just following Teemu and trying to be in his draft, and that helped me also to get a better speed, so people behind couldn't get that not so good run to the backstretch.
Well, good run in the number 17 Ferrari Azura racing car. 4th place and 5th place for him, and unfortunately that is all we have time for. Polar GT action here today on Glacier TV. Plenty more action coming your way on Glacier TV over the next coming weeks, of course. 3 rounds left to go in the Arlington.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Kicking off the first of those 3 rounds of our second visit to the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace, better known as Interlagos, of course. And we won't say Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace every time on the broadcast, I promise. We'll be on air with that, of course, full coverage from start to finish. And also, we've got a lot more action coming your way. We've got STC starting as well, their 2nd season on Glacier TV, coming your way this fall as well. For myself, Wil Vincent, Jarno Matikainen on cameras, not from Dan Blake, not from Rob Duff or anyone else, just me and my friend John, who came to say a couple of words. We'll talk to you all later. Bye!